Hi, thank you everybody who has signed this petition and joined my group and the page. Um, I've been an addict for 20 years of my life. Recently got into recovery, and I know that everybody's story is different. Um, and and that's the case with my sister. My story. I was young. I tried drugs, got addicted. Most of my teenage years and adult years I spent, living in an addict's lifestyle. Homeless, in abusive relationships, um, crimes, being a criminal, doing whatever it was I had to do to support my addiction. The one thing that was a godsend for me was during the last 2 years of my addiction, I was doing drugs that were making me real paranoid. I was around people who were really undesirable people, the type of people that take advantage of you. And where most people, when they're paranoid, they're like want to hide in a closet somewhere. Well, I would run to the hospital or call the police. I was one of those people. So I had the luxury of being Baker acted several times for drug-induced psychosis, or for just being a danger to myself. So I would say probably about 24 Baker acts over the course of 2 years. While there, I was at a certain facility which had a dual diagnosis wing where I would be detoxed from the opiates or whatever other drug it was that I was on. If there was a detox protocol, I was able to receive that. And I was also in classes all day long. Classes that helped to teach me about what recovery was. And let me tell you, when I would first go into, the first couple of Baker acts, I came in there with like this piss poor attitude. I don't need help. I know what I'm doing. I got this. I don't need you to tell me what I'm supposed to do. I'm not listening to your BS, and to be honest, they really didn't like me much. The texts and the social workers, because I thought I knew everything. And, I was probably one of the people that they figured they was just gonna, be read about in a paper, found next to a bush somewhere. But the more that I went, the more I started to realize that I did have a problem. I used my depressive, painful moments in my life as an excuse on why I used, which I found out I wasn't unique in doing. A lot of people do that. So the more that I was in these facilities for usually about 5 days, the more things started to sink in. I had a problem, and I needed to figure out how to stop. And then I realized I couldn't stop. So a couple more Baker acts in, God only knows how many times I went in. I was finally, I asked them, I said, I heard you guys have a 28-day program. Can I stay for it? So I stayed for the 28-day program, and I learned a lot about recovery. I learned a lot about triggers, and how to manage my pain efficiently, my physical pain, and coping skills. I found out that while I was on the streets and feeling like nobody cared about me and nobody wanted to help me, that there was no way that they could help me. So I finally was in a position, thanks to being involuntarily Baker acted, where I was able to find out what recovery was about, and I was able to do something about my life. And I thank God for that every day. Now, the problem with addiction, as we all may or may not know, is that it comes in a lot of different forms. You know, there are some people who grow up in families that it's alcoholism and drugs, and your parents are doing it, and by the time you're 14 or 15 years old, you're involved in it too, and now you're hanging out with your parents doing the drugs and doing the drinking. There's the addicts who just get lost out there, look for acceptance, and wind up finding that acceptance in drugs. And then there are those who have legitimate health problems and who wind up getting physically dependent on opiates and on pain management and on anxiety pills and things like that. And the trouble is that with these cases, the amount of medication as your tolerance goes up, that goes up. And if you don't ever detox from any troubles that you wind up having, you get caught in this vicious cycle of chronic pain. So now, when you take somebody like my sister who had rheumatoid arthritis, she was in chronic pain. She had, when she first got diagnosed in her early 20s, she had a rheumatoid factor of like an 80-year-old person. It was progressive and it was aggressive. So it wasn't hard for her to become dependent on those medications. The real trouble, though, started for her after she got into a relationship with this man. I don't know if it was a relationship, a friendship. It was something, and it was really toxic. And he introduced her to a lot of drugs. You know, when their relationship ended, which I'll get to in a moment, those other drugs also ended. But it ended in a very violent way. My sister was beaten nearly to death by this man who was her boyfriend in her eyes. They were together every day. And this man's brother. It was a horrific beating. It was terrible. So now we've compounded major depression, PTSD, and a dependence on opiates. We started to get really concerned as a family about her. Her depression was really bad. She was very private. She wouldn't say much, but she would say things sometimes, like, I can't take it anymore. I don't even want to be here. I don't want to be anywhere. And we would try to get her help. And we were told there's nothing we can do. You know, she hasn't admitted to us that she wants to hurt herself. She hasn't said she wanted to hurt herself or anything like that. So, I mean, there were times where we were begging, we were pleading, we were crying, please, I'm concerned, I'm worried. She's going through something, and we are afraid for her life. And between the opiates, which she was abusing for pain, both emotional and physical, we knew that it wouldn't take much for her to end it. And she had made comments. And when we would tell the police, you know, that she had said, you know, she knows how she can make it all go away, they'd say, well, that doesn't cover our Baker Act criteria. It's very, very strict. I'll go on to add that my husband at one point in time was in a hotel room. I found him. He had been in recovery and clean for about a year, and I found him in a hotel room, and there was drug paraphernalia around him, but it wasn't illegal drug paraphernalia. And he lied to the police about being in there, getting high. And the police looked at me and they said, listen, we know he's lying. We know he's in there getting high. We know he's in a dangerous situation. But there's absolutely nothing that we can do legally. And I'm sorry for that. And I said, so do you mean to tell me that if he dies in there because of the substance he's using tonight, I mean, there's nothing you can do to prevent that? And they said no. They were sorry they couldn't. This petition means a lot to me because the Baker Act criteria is so specific that there are so many people who are hurting for different reasons that their minds may be clouded by addiction. Whether that addiction is for selfish reasons or because of medical reasons got out of hand. Addiction is addiction, and it affects everybody. And when loved ones are sitting there saying, I need help. You know, I mean, my husband had sent out messages to me and to his own children at one point in time saying, help me, save me. And there was nothing we could do. And my sister cried out for help. She was in pain. She was depressed. And the shame that comes with the depression and with opiate dependency keeps you from being able to say, I need help, to people outside of your home. So I know that there's a lot of other stories out there like this. And I do believe that this is something that really needs to be addressed. There are these medicines out there, these drugs out there, they are not the drugs from the 60s and 70s. The heroin is not real heroin. It's fentanyl, and it comes from China, and it comes from these labs, and it's so potent. And then you've got these street level drug dealers who are playing like they're chemistry majors, measuring this crap out, and they're killing people. They're killing people. And as family members right now, and friends and loved ones, all we can do is watch our loved ones kill themselves. My parents had to watch me out on the street for years with absolutely nothing they could do to help me. Now, had a law such as this been in effect, when the police saw that my husband was intoxicated, depressed, and needed help, they would have had the legal ability to get him the help that he needed. Same as with my sister, same as with me. If my parents called the police and said, my daughter's out on the street, she's with a man who's beating her, broke her finger last week, and she's with him, she's not capable of making decisions that are good for her safety right now, she needs help, and this law was in effect, I would be able to have been taken to a facility, detoxed, help get the proper medication that I needed, and support, and the knowledge that people care, and have a chance. I could have a chance. Now, of course, there's people out there and they don't have loved ones, and you know what? In time, maybe there's something we'll be able to do to help them. But right now, we are family members who watch our daughters, our husbands, our sons, our nieces, our nephews, our parents, our grandparents. We watch them, their depression get worse, their drugs that they're on cloud their ability to think clearly, and we are helpless. The police are helpless. There needs to be change. There has to be change. And I believe that everyone has a story of somebody they know or somebody they love that a law like this could have helped. Not every addict out there is just some junkie. Me, I was a junkie. Some of these addicts are addicted for other reasons. We need to change that stigma. And we need to make sure that people are able to get the help that they need when they're not able to ask for that help themselves. So I thank you for listening. I look forward to feedback and to hearing some stories and getting some ideas on what we can do to save people out there. Because there's lives out there that can literally be saved by changing this and doing something about it. And I believe we can do it together. Thank you very much.